Hello, I'm Amanda Weaver. I'm Director of Professional Publishing at the IET. I also sit on the IBC Content Steering Group, which puts together the conference programme. Obviously, we haven't had the opportunity to do that this year, which is a real shame because there were some fantastic ideas out there. But in spite of not being able to go to Amsterdam, what we've seen is fantastic collaboration and really hard work. IBC's got a great programme up on its Showcase platform. And tonight, courtesy of the RTS and the IET working together, I think we're in for a great session on those accelerator projects. I'm really looking forward to it, and I hope you are too.
Welcome to today's RTS IET review of IBC 2020, exploring the highlights of the IBC Accelerator Media Innovation Programme, which featured as a centerpiece of IBC's virtual showcase last month. IBC's Accelerator Programme is a framework to foster agile, fast-track, and collaborative innovation to support the media and entertainment technology ecosystem. Projects are created and led by broadcasters, studios, and other content providers, who, as champions, set out their critical business or technology challenges. IBC helped to assemble project teams to focus on these challenges, comprising like-minded co-champions and, importantly, expert participants, who are the vendors, manufacturers, and suppliers who all joined forces and worked together to explore solutions in a very short sprint. This year, there were 8 diverse, dynamic, and collaborative projects. Typically, these would have been physically demonstrated as proof of concepts at IBC in Amsterdam, but instead, the project results were revealed on IBC's virtual showcase platform. Here to tell us about them today are the IBC Accelerator Programme leads, Mark Smith and Muki-International.
Hello, good evening. Thank you and welcome. I'm Mark Smith and my colleague is
Muki-International. Hello.
Hello, welcome and thank you. Thank you particularly to Amanda there and for that introduction, and thank you to the RTS and the IET for giving us the opportunity to tell you about the IBC Accelerator, which is a media innovation programme. Without a show, sadly, at IBC in Amsterdam this year, it was the Accelerator projects were a big highlight of this year's digital IBC Showcase. And as you heard in that intro, there were 8 diverse innovation projects. They've been running since they were initially pitched as challenges in February this year, when people could actually get together and meet in rooms at an event called IBC Kickstart Day. Perhaps that was one of the last actual physical events of 2020. I don't know, but it seems like a long time ago. Since then, you saw all those logos. Since some 62 world-leading media organizations got involved. They all collaborated in projects to develop some solutions that were set out as challenges by many of those broadcasters, the content providers. These solutions were worked on, were all developed through the last 4 to 5 months, and they were showcased as proof of concept outcomes and discussion sessions on IBC's Showcase in early September. So today we haven't got that much time, within an hour, to talk about the 8 projects, but what we do have is an overview to give you some of the highlights of each of those, but we'll be taking a deeper dive into just 3 of the projects, and we've got some very special guests here who championed, who worked inside those projects, that are going to join us to talk through just some of those challenges and the solutions and proof of concepts that they achieved. Do bear in mind, we can just provide you with highlights, but go to the IBC Showcase session to see the full, typically hour-long sessions with their demos. So I'll just hand over quickly to Muki just to talk through the 8 diverse projects we had and the themes of some of those and the champions that led them. Muki.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mark. And like you said, it's about collaboration and innovation at its finest. And we were able to meet together in February, come up with some ideas. And then over the last couple months, especially during lockdown, it's really brought people kind of closer together to collaborate even more so. So we've got a slide to show you an overview of what these eight projects were. So just zipping through them, we've got the AI automation and live content moderation, an AI-backed interactive music talent show, usable VFX Archive, the 5G centralized streaming for location-based virtual reality. And then the three we're going to do a deeper dive into today is the 5G remote production, the animation production, showcasing some XR real-time immersive workflows, and our TV delivered as objects. And as you can see, we do have an all-star roster of champions that have been leading these projects along the way. So let's get straight into it. So over to you, Mark.
So the first project was championed by the Associated Press, and Al Jazeera, and the Entertainment Technology Center, which is part of the University of Southern California. And there were some participant vendors who were Vidrover, based in New York, MetaLiquid, based in Italy, and Limecraft, based in Belgium. So a really international project focusing on quite a complicated challenge for the news agencies particularly, is to automate that process of shortlisting video by exploiting some of the key capabilities of artificial intelligence, i.e. analyzing the video, detecting scenes, people, situations, and applying really valuable and accurate metadata to some of those videos. The team essentially used face, object, and voice recognition plus sentiment analysis and some machine learning to replace that really labor-intensive process of producing shot lists of raw and edited content that they need to find quickly and exploit for the broadcasters. So let's hear why this was an important challenge at quite a high level. And this is going to be, the challenge will be set out here by Sandy McIntyre and Martin Verwest. Sandy is the VP of News at Associated Press, and Martin is the CEO of Limecraft, one of those vendors involved in that project. So if we could run that, BT.
So the challenge we're trying to solve in this accelerator is that the world is full of news video every day, shot by agencies, shot by broadcasters, and shot by citizens. And every single shot that's filmed in the world, somebody somewhere has to write down manually what that is, what it depicts. What we're trying to do is to use AI and machine learning to take that job away from the human, and in the first instance at least, get the machine to help do the heavy lifting.
This project is innovative because it will change our view on artificial intelligence. What we've seen to date in terms of artificial intelligence is, I would say, naive, returning text, transcription, optical character recognition, and what this project is doing is combining all these sources so to throw back higher level content descriptions that allow for more value-added automation.
Super, thank you guys. So moving to the next project, which is also in many ways very much related to that first project looking at shot listing. Particularly for news organizations. Again, this is exploiting AI, but this time to develop capabilities for broadcasters particularly to identify and flag what might be inappropriate content, especially across some of the live and incoming feeds, in order that they can comply with their regulatory and editorial standards internally. This included applying AI to both professional journalist content shot live in the field, and also to user-generated content, which is coming through the social media platforms, which often require a filter or a QC check before going live on air. So this accelerator was championed by Al Jazeera, who was the lead on that project, but AP, Associated Press, were also involved, as well as RTE from Ireland, and again, the ETC, Entertainment Technology Center from the University of Southern California, as well as Reuters. And I think it's quite unique that AP and Reuters collaborate. It's quite a rare collaboration for these fierce competitors. They do collaborate in some of the standards bodies, but it's rare for that to happen outside. So we have a number of vendors as well that have been involved in that, including TVU Networks, MetaLiquid, and TV Conal, which actually stands for TV Content Analytics. Their POC, or their proof of concept, focus particularly on detecting violent content, and this, of course, is extraordinarily sensitive and a very, very difficult area and labor-intensive area. If you think about the hundreds of thousands of hours of live and user-generated content that comes through on their live video feeds, just what they're up against in terms of both the resources it takes to actually monitor some of that, but also the toll that some of this violent content can take on some of these content moderators. So let's hear from a couple of people involved, and why not AP again and Reuters. Let's hear from them about this challenge and what they aim to achieve.
What we've been able to do here is use artificial intelligence and machine learning to scan a video in real time, not only to say what's inside that video, both visually and from a sound perspective, but to predict what might be happening later in that video. So in a live studio gallery environment where split-second decisions are being made as to what's appropriate to put to air, we've been able to create a green, amber and red traffic light system effectively to say this piece of video is good to put to air, this should be raising a red flag for you.
Not getting audio,
and
we
that
understand
is an
on this.
Incredibly important and new way of helping studio producers make sure that they stay inside the compliance environment under which their very broadcast licenses depend.
The POC proves that it is possible to detect and warn when a live feed unexpectedly becomes violent in real time, so an operator could switch away. It also proves that it is possible to create a taxonomy around video and audio to describe the elements that show the video needs immediate attention from editorial staff.
So that's the first two AI-themed projects, and if you had a little bit of difficulty on the audio on that, I'm not quite sure, but we may come back to that a little bit later just to recap on it. But that's the first two AI-themed projects. Muki, maybe you can tell us about the third, which is a very, very different medium for the music industry.
Absolutely. It is still within our bucket of our AI, our little umbrella of our AI projects. But this one is a little bit special because it was aiming to develop not only the proof of concept developing, the defined backbone of utilizing AI within an ethical, responsible, safe manner. The theme was around live music talent shows, and our champions on this one were Warner Music and Viacom, CBS, and MTV International, who met at our IBC Kickstart Day, and the concept was created there. So it was really amazing to see some great creative ideas be bursting through for that. So yeah, this is to kind of transpose the existing kind of traditional type of talent show you would normally see on TV, your X Factors, your Voices, now your Little Mix stuff and everything that happens with that, shifting it to a cutting edge platform that's going to integrate the real-time UGC functionalities and the interactivity that comes and then collating into a live broadcast that's happening within the app. But again, the core behind this one was to create a place that is safe and accessible for everyone, and create it so it's an ethically responsible type of moderation. They were utilizing the Amazon recognition services and with a little bit of human interaction as well. And a platform was actually indeed created for this proof of concept in this short sprint, which is fantastic. And again, it's a little bit of mixing in the music talent show, fan interaction, and seeing pressing the boundaries of AI. So with our partners, Warner Music and Viacom CBS, we had our participants Grabio, Joy Polloy, and Never Know, and a bit of extra sprinkling help in our research, thanks to Ravensbourne University. So we've got a VT to outline some of the concept and the workflow and the UX that they've created. So take it away.
The challenge that this accelerator project is working to solve is the lack of a digital product for aspiring artists all across the world to be able to showcase their talent in a safe and ethical space.
When we looked at this project, we fully believe that the music and talent format that we've been accustomed to over the past 10, 15 years is ripe for disruption.
One big change within the broadcast industry has been the shift of video creation and consumption. It's moved from the broadcasters pushing their content to the viewers, and now it's the viewers providing content to us.
And it particularly appealed because it involves remote production and being able to get audience content. First, there is a machine moderation process, but also bringing in that human element and making sure that the best of the content is what's seen by both judges and by the audience.
As a music company, don't necessarily have too much of a direct relationship with the fans. I think it's important for us to have a more interesting approach to relating to fans and to creating a channel of communication.
The challenge here to reinvent the wheel as such and create an interesting journey for an audience with ultimately a payoff that would create opportunities for an artist, but again, all voted for by the real audience community.
This is just the beginning, right? I think there's a bigger challenge for the wider industry to join us in this journey.
Wow, Muki, we saw Warner Music in there. That's not your typical IBC goer, is it? As an organisation and a music player.
They're not actually, Mark, and it was fantastic to see that initiative of a major record label, which, let's face it, the music industry is completely integrated into the broadcasting space, especially looking at how these platforms are considered to be broadcasters. So it was really nice to see an initiative and a push in innovation, from Warner Music, and they've done a really great job. And Tiago really did a great job leading the team with Bianca.
Yeah, fantastic project. Why don't you carry on and talk a little bit about another great project and from another sort of sector of the industry, the movie industry, usable VFX Archive. What was that all about?
This one was, I just loved this project because this was led by a group called Movie Labs, which are the nonprofit sitting over in the movie sector and the studio side, looking after the major film studios and trying to press forward innovation. They gave a really great white paper at last year's IBC around their 2030 vision, which focused on the film industry and the production and, improving those workflows that go within that. So yeah, this is like creating, exploring the value of archiving VFX assets for film, TV, and gaming. The purpose of this is to future-proof the IP by creating some workflows that will push forward the automation of archiving these 3D components. So it explored some solutions. Again, the point of the IBC Accelerators is not to, again, which I love our term from our friend Sandy McIntyre, not to boil the ocean, but let's cause some ripples and let's explore some of these solutions. And this VFX Archive project did just that. So they were able to look into some solutions to store VFX assets in a way that allows them to be searched and retrieved easily. Again, that saves cost, the complexity of an asset reuse, and also really pushes forward the collaboration between contributors in the workflows and the overall ecosystem. And this project was a really, really great example of cross-industry expertise coming together within a good core focus. The other champions within that project were Paramount Pictures and Universal, Sony Innovation Studios, Unity Technologies, the first of a couple projects that Unity were involved in, and our participants were AtMex, Vitaspine, and Perfect Memory. So another quick overview of why this Accelerated was accepted into the program and why we really were excited about this one. Again, about saving time and money, about your 3D assets, trying to get things into some siloed workflows and putting them into a good common format, label the stuff, search the archive, look for the stuff, and retrieve things, share the stuff. So big thanks to Raymond at Movie Labs for leading the way.
Yeah, so Raymond, he's the principal or chief scientific officer, chief scientist, I think, for Movie Labs. And again, another really international project, because that was Movie Labs in LA, wasn't it? And and then we had AtMex, who are based in LA as well, but also Perfect Memory from France and Vitaspine from Sweden. And so another example of how all of this has been done virtually, collaboratively, and globally.
That's right. Putting the I in IBC.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So let's move on. Muki, why don't talk about the first of our kind of two 5G projects? Why don't you just talk about the first one, which is the location-based virtual reality project that you've been driving with the team.
Yes, thanks, Mark. Exactly. So this is the 5G centralized streaming for LBVR. So in our worlds of immersive entertainment, location-based virtual reality. This project's been led by Telenet. We've got a slide up here to show Telenet, and which is the parent, also run by the parent company Liberty Global, and also the Park Playground, which is an entertainment arcade venues around London. And this is a bit of a late starter, so we're kind of like just taking off with this one. We were waiting on a couple technical issues and things happening with lockdown, which got a late start to the project. But again, it's about utilizing 5G in a centralized streaming into HMD, which is our head-mounted displays, or goggles, as some people like to say. So either via a private edge or a cloud, which we're working through some workflows I'm going to show you in a second. And the objective here is just to really challenge the boundaries of 5G with very different types of content and push through to test the real-time, high-speed, simultaneous experiences. So we're going to put, we've already started some R&D tech papers and looking at some architectures and infrastructure on how some of these different locations can push and pull what the connectivity could be and within the experience. And we're working closely with some IP partners there. So in the next slide, shows a little bit of our all-in-one setup, where you see a little bit of a workflow here from Telenet servers coming in from a gaming server, going into the rendering, utilizing that 5G core, which is great to be working with Telenet and Liberty Global, having everything under one roof, which meaning we're not having to go out and try to like put these puzzle pieces together, which is also a great experience. We're going to get into that in our remote production. And then, plugging into the 5G antennas and the radio into what these headsets are. And then that last slide just shows, the core outcomes of what's going to be achieved with this is, no boundaries, no location restrictions for those utilizing the virtual reality, if that's in a gaming, multiplayer, multi-location setup, but also remembering our home is a location, especially the last 6 months. And it also just being a little bit easier to do. And we're looking into Brussels South Airport being the last location for that. So without further ado, Mark, I think I'm going to pass back over to you to get into one of our flagship events, the 5G remote production.
Thanks, Muki. I think that, leads us nicely into, and I think what has been one of the hottest industry topics in the last couple of years, and particularly, how all these capabilities of 5G that are to come, how might they really radically enhance and streamline and fuel broadcasters' remote production capabilities and operations. So for this challenge, we had an incredible lineup of champions who wanted to be part of this and learn about what we call the art of the possible with 5G, at least today. These included the BBC, who led the project, along with ITV, BT Sport, TV2, YLE, and SVT from the Nordics, Viacom CBS, Al Jazeera, and the EBU, as well as the Olympic Broadcasting Service, OBS. And a host of vendors there that we're going to talk about in a minute. It's my great pleasure to talk about this project, which was quite a mammoth exercise, and it was led so ably by Ian Wagden from the BBC. And delighted to have you on here live, Ian, and your colleague Paminda Gandhu, who works with you in BBC R&D. Welcome.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Do tell us about this. Why has 5G garnered so much interest? What is possible today? And what's really the potential for broadcasting in the production side?
Yeah, so the big thing for us was, okay, I think when we met back in February and we kind of all got together and shook hands and drank coffee and ate cake and all that kind of stuff like we used to do. We were right at the kind of peak hype of the 5G curve, and we just launched the networks and everyone was kind of saying, hey, we should be able to do something with production of this. And we ourselves had done some work on network contribution, but we knew there was a lot more possibility. So we were kind of, and what was really attractive about the IBC Accelerator thing was the ability to kind of work with other broadcasters. So I'd spent the last 2 years working with the telecoms industry to kind of work out what we could do, and it was actually really refreshing to kind of work with a whole bunch of broadcasters who had a whole bunch of questions and a whole bunch of similar things that they wanted to explore. So we kind of got together, and we at that point lockdown hit, and we kind of went into this virtual world, and we started to really explore a lot of what the what 5G could deliver, and we looked at kind of different network configurations. I think we've got a slide that kind of shows a lot of those.
Yeah,
different slides.
Why don't you talk, Ian? Why don't we start with Parminder as well, talking about the sort of the foundations for this project, which was trying to research and understand what broadcasters had done to date with a lot of the use cases for 5G, and also then what they wanted to do going forward.
Yeah, so we'd done a lot of work in the standards work, and we've done a lot of work with colleagues in the EBU, the European Broadcasting Union, and across the line to kind of really describe what we wanted from a 5G service, and that work's still ongoing and will continue for the next few years. But the reality was that we knew there were different ways that you could architect 5G. And we knew there were ways that we wanted to use 5G that went beyond just what we were doing already with bonded cellular and other devices. And we also, as a group of broadcasters, knew that there were avenues to explore, and a lot for us to learn. So we basically started by reaching out to a lot of the telcos. I think if we got that slide available to us, that first slide, one of the first big bits of work we did was to kind of really just kind of look at all of the different configurations of networks that you can have. So you can see here, there's lots of abbreviations, there's lots of wording on this. There's more. If people want to know more about this stuff, there's documents about it. But kind of looking at different types of network configurations and how we might use them as broadcasters. And the reality is that we want to use all of these types of configuration in different ways. So we then had to kind of start to really think about those user cases and describe those in a coherent way. And Parminder led that work for us. So Parminder, do you want to talk us through some of the thoughts around the user cases?
Sure. As Ian was saying, the experience of the broadcasters really led us through into defining our proof of concept, because, as Ian was saying, we have become really adept at harnessing 4G and using those capabilities for broadcasting, but also we have experience around those challenges with regards to latency and network congestion, and all that experience informed our user cases. And the three key desires that came out of those conversations were flexibility, mobility, and reliability. And we also managed to identify potential for not only news, sport and special events coverage, but also smaller music events, live comedy, local politics, lower tier sports, but also the very high end productions such as TV dramas and movie making. And also there were conversations about how creativity would really be enabled by being able to use untethered cameras, for example. And all of the different network solutions that we discussed would also be dependent on whether that event was therefore planned or unplanned, and whether there would be a need for device or SIM management portals for pre-configuration in those locations. And all of that came together to inform our proof of concept.
And it was almost like a snowball as well, Mark. So kind of when we started, we kind of started with a relatively small group, and as we spoke to more people, we just got really excited about it, and we ended up, I think, with about 10 champions on the project. But alongside that, we also had a whole bunch of vendors who just wanted to get involved, and we got to this point. I think we were about 3 months in, and lockdown was. And we were all frustrated sitting staring at Zoom calls, and as many of the people on here can probably imagine, so there's so much you can do staring at a computer screen. And a few of our kind of colleagues suggested that perhaps we should actually try and do something for real. And I remember the look of horror on your face when we said, well, why don't we try and do something from, live for IBC, and we'll try and go live. Unfortunately, at that time, we also had one of our partners, Mobile Viewpoint, based in Holland, and alongside Viacom CBS, who have a big headquarters in Holland. If we can just have a look at the slide, it's probably 2 slides on actually, but next one after that. This one here. So this was kind of a little bit of our first plan. We've been talking about actually how can we use 5G. Mobile Viewpoint were kind of really looking at kind of an AI engine that they had for sport, and we said, well, okay, well, if we're in Amsterdam, why don't we go to Amsterdam? Let's do some stuff with in Amsterdam. And so we kind of came up with this idea. Okay, well, what says Amsterdam? Well, it's a boat. on a canal. So why don't we just put a 5G camera on a boat, and that'll be really exciting. And then somebody else said, well, we could do that. We could fly a drone over it, and we can do some stuff with a drone, and we can control some 5G lights. And it grew, and suddenly we ended up with what we got on the next slide, which was actually a big multi-location, multi-vendor OB that was actually a really complicated thing. And what was great about this was that everyone pulled out all the stops. So we were in a location in London, we were at the Rye in Amsterdam, we were at a shoreside venue on the side of the canal, we were on the boat, we had a drone, we were using Sony's virtual production cloud. We had all of this was brought back to London, where we had staff in London who were mixing this together, and this was really the remote production side of it. And I think when we started talking about it, nobody knew it was going to get this big. And the great thing about this, and the thing that I really take away from this, was actually everyone really worked together, but we all knew that we were on the kind of bleeding edge of what all of these technologies could do, and we knew it was going to be a kind of horrible, not horrible, but a kind of interesting experience to try and combine all of this. And on the day, as happens with these things, it doesn't always go right. But when you look back on it now, I've got a real sense of pride, because actually it was the first time I'd worked with a lot of these people in this capacity. Normally I'd kind of walk past them in the IBC bar, at the beach bar, and say, hi, how's your year been? But actually working with somebody for kind of 6 months, really kind of delving into their problems, them understanding your approach, bringing ideas, solutions in. We did some really great stuff.
I think it was extraordinary, Ian. I think a lot of firsts there, particularly that collaboration between all of these. But then even some real firsts, like using AI-enabled cameras over a 5G network, was a first, and a genuine first. And I think we had a question here on the chat actually about whether some of these are just proof of concepts or whether they're actually used. I think in this case, what we took, and I think quite uniquely as well, was a series of sort of existing vendor kit and applied them to the different use cases that we had. We should just name check some of those, shouldn't we? Huawei on the vendor side, there was LiveView, there was RV West, there was Mobile Viewpoint, there was Sony, there was NewTek. And then on the network side, we had, we worked with Vodafone Ziggo, who were fantastic in Amsterdam, but also with a live feed and Mike Crimp speaking from London over the EE 5G network using a 5G device. So very complicated stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think actually bringing that all together was, just trying to manage those challenges is complicated enough. When you can't travel to do a recce, when you're stuck in, I know you were fortunate to be there, but when I'm stuck on the end of a WhatsApp call in my spare bedroom, kind of tearing my hair out on things that normally I'd just be kind of right, okay, well, if you plug that into there, it'll work, and you kind of having that divorce from it. All of that was really big learnings as well, let alone just the bit we were trying to do.
I think one of the broadcasters said to me they learned more about 5G in one day than they have in terms of white papers and months of conferences and things.
Quite possibly. I know I learned more. And I think that was the other thing as well. You talk about all of these vendors. And yes, and is this real tech? And yes, we could have gone and bought all of these things and plugged them up. But it's not until you plug them into an ecosystem that you find if they're really going to kind of do what you want them to do. And
so
that's one of the things that we learned, that actually it might do what it says on the tin if you use it like it says on the tin, but broadcasters don't use the tech the way it's supposed to.
So as you say, I was very fortunate to go to Amsterdam, the only one, and we had minimal production resources on the ground, didn't we? We really did, and it just showed the value of 5G if do it this way. I was fortunate to go. Why don't we take a quick look at what actually happened in some of these different locations? If you could run the 5G VT, please.
This live demonstration is a brilliant example of how the broadcasting industry has pulled together to work collaboratively, dynamically, and push the boundaries of new tech to keep our industry moving forward in a really positive direction.
Introduce to you Maurits van der Velde, CEO of the RAI Amsterdam.
Yes.
Welcome.
Hi, Dan.
Maurits, it's totally empty here. How does it feel?
What do you think? This is very sad, and we're used to having a lot of people in September and during the whole year, and now it's totally empty. So we miss actually the whole IBC community. Yeah. We miss the people. I don't know them all by myself, the 50,000, but I miss them all.
Yeah.
These are all connected thanks to 5G, which makes it possible to transfer data very fast without almost any latency. So let's go further with the next step in this show. I'll hand you over to the Accelerator Innovation Lead, Mark Smith, and he is somewhere in Amsterdam here.
Hi there, and welcome aboard the Captain Anna here on the Johan van Hasselt Canal in Amsterdam. We're live with a 5G remote production, and we've got some fantastic technology to show you, but we've also got an artist who is a rising star, an MTV Push Awards for the Netherlands, a winner. This is a remote production using AI-enabled cameras in possibly a world first, is that right?
Yeah, in combination with 5G, I think, because we have a 5G live connection over here. That is the connection to the connectivity all the way to London in the end. It's actually a panoramic camera. It actually has 4 lenses and it creates a complete panorama.
That's the X-Cam, right?
The X-Cam, yes. It makes a complete panorama of the whole stage, and then we do electronically pen tilt zoom over this panorama to bring the artist or the talents live. And we're using AI again to find the person and to point the camera right.
Wow. IBC Showcase welcomes Emma Hasters.
You're not coming home with me tonight. You just want attention. You don't want my heart. Maybe you just hate the thought of me with someone new. Yeah, you just want attention. I knew from the start. You're just making sure I'm never getting over you. You'll be running
Here we go. That's just a few snippets there from that production, and you know, we even had some of that lighting controlled by 5G, didn't we? TV2 Denmark brought remote controlled lighting that you could have controlled from anywhere in the world. We had TV2 also brought a company called WeFly with the drone footage that had an RV West backpack on it. Well, we had all the challenges that we had to face. It was quite an extraordinary effort, really, wasn't it? And I would say hats off to that accelerator and that whole team, and to you, Ian, for leading it, and Paminda and everyone that really made that such an extraordinary, you know, I think we're probably the first event company to actually do something from the venue where the actual show wasn't taking place.
Yeah, and I think the other important thing is that the learnings that we took from that, and actually one of the key things is that we worked really closely with people like the EBU who have just published a major work. I'll plug the handily titled EBU Tech 056, which is looks at how you can use all of these different types of networks and some of the issues that are going to face for us. And a lot of our users like TV2 and BT were heavily involved in the authoring of that paper as well. And then we're taking this work on, and we're also discussing what we want to do next.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a key element of it, isn't it? And how do you take this forward, and how do you combine it with some of that other work that you're doing with all these other bodies? I think that's it's been informative, I think, or it's been emotional and informative, I think, Ian, we can say.
Indeed.
A lot of tears.
Yeah, well ably led, and thank you so much. Thank you, Paminda. Ian, stick around if you're going to come back, because I know you were involved in another project that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, one wasn't enough.
One wasn't really enough, I know. So thank you both, and I'm going to throw back to Muki at this stage to talk a little bit about another very different project, which is CG animation and XR used in real-time workflows for animators. Muki.
Thanks, Mark. Again, it was a pleasure and privilege to be part of the entire IBC Accelerator, all 8 projects, and that 5G remote production was a crazy one. I think I felt like I got hit by a truck like a week after that, after working on that one. So to juxtapose all that, I'm so excited to introduce this next project, our CG animation production, concentrating on new and immersive real-time workflows. And if anyone knows me, which you know me well enough by now, immersive production in XR, VR, AR is a major vertical of things that I work on. So it was a pleasure to be a part of this project and see some of the changes that have been taking place. This project was led by the esteemed Rafi Nazem, who was former creative VP of NBC Universal, and our other co-champions that came on board this were Cartoon Network, Unity, Sky, Unity, and Unreal Engine, which we can completely 1000% confirmed a world media first of these 2 giant game engines coming together. So that was again another privilege. Dylan Sasson, a very well-known animator, also experimenting within this immersive XR space, and the National Film Board of Canada. The goal for this challenge, again, was to be rethinking is to rethink and redesign the current approach of CG animation production pipelines, and thinking about how to make that paradigm shift into real-time formatting, knowing that there's productions being made that sometimes add on extra layers of work when you have to make different formats for different platforms, especially at this rate and speed of how consumer adoption and consumer consumption is taking place. So this proof of concept was to be creating and delivering and looking into concepts for transformative workflows using XR spatial design, again, focusing on VR and AR tools, fantastically led by our participants, Tavori and Eon, Masterpiece VR, Insalod, and Blue Zoo. And again, ultimately, we're creating some animated content that is time and cost efficient, democratized, artist-friendly, nimble, and most of all, collaborative. We've got another slide just kind of giving you, just in case you're new to the worlds of computer graphics animation or immersive productions. Here's a little bit of a visual. Again, this is coming from our project leader, Rafi's, who's given many talks about this in our industry, and I encourage you to catch one of his keynotes if you can. But on your left, you see an established workflow of how creating 3D assets would have normally been working. Your flat screen UI, you may just be one of you, then you have to pass on assets down the road, and that could take weeks and weeks and weeks and lots of money. And then versus the new type of paradigm concept about the spatial design workflow and integrating our immersive storytelling types of UI within our XR native spatial design and the storytelling. And then that last slide here, again, again, with the showcases, Rafi slides with the showcases that you can go to, log on to the IBC Showcase website on IBC 365, make sure you register, log on, and you can watch all of these sessions back of all of our accelerators. But this is a little workflow slide to showcase the spatial design tools and the workflow synergies. If we can bring that up for one more second, please, Phil, RTS, showing how that you've got the different workflows going across from, it could be flat screen, linear types of animation, 3D printing, that type of interactivity within animation on mobile platforms as well. And even thinking about interactive comics, which are one of my favorite immersive platforms of all time world. And then you see down the middle, everything is kind of siphoning and funneling into our 6 degrees of freedom, our 6 DOF VR ways to produce, where we're able to utilize these tools, from prototyping to integration. And I've had 6 months of learning myself even about, the rigging and the different types of layers of 3D and the contextualizing and utilization of these tools that then can be distributed across. So without further ado, I would love to introduce my esteemed guests, Rafi Nizam, who was our project lead, and also Inga Petrievskaya, who is our CEO of Tavori. Welcome, guys. And Mark, we've got you in shot just to keep you here as our little as we expand this. So Rafi, yeah. What's really great about this hi Rafi, what's really great, as if we haven't seen enough of each other in the last 6 months, right?
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. So what's really fantastic about this project and how this came about, you and I had actually met a week before the IBC Accelerator Day, the IBC Accelerator Kickstart Day. And I just clearly so remember you coming along to the Kickstart Day, telling me about the concept of the paradigm shift within immersive spatial design workflows. And I was like, dude, you have to get up on stage and propose that as a project. And I was so happy you did, because you brought together such an amazing team and you've achieved so much in this short space of time. And I'd just love you to kind of tell us a little bit more about the goals that kind of grew out of the project and what was achieved in the last few weeks even.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So I guess at the heart of this is, CG animation production pipelines are siloed by their output formats, as you were saying, right? So whether you're doing series production or mobile apps or gaming or all the social media platforms out there, and you want to create animated content for that,
through to augmented reality and virtual reality, these spatial storytelling emerging formats. Despite these having common steps and similar asset requirements, their respective pipelines have evolved with different specifications, right? They just don't play nicely together. And that's been fine as content creators and franchise holders. That's been okay for a number of years because, we've just sort of dealt with it. But today we're faced with an ever fragmented audience, right? They demand content to be tailored to whichever platform they're on at the time. And my particular interest is in animation and CG animation. And I can't help but notice that XR and real-time technology offers a chance for us to unify that asset creation process. And in doing so, we get a deeper understanding of the stories we're creating and the worlds that we're building. And by using VR tools, it doesn't mean your output only has to be VR. Tavori is one of the participants in our project, and they make probably the only spatial animation software out there right now. And when I use it, it connects me with my ideas in 3D like none of the traditional CG apps have ever been able to do. Those apps involve too many barriers for my way of working. And as we realized through the project, many of our participating studios experience the same barriers, and we just sort of live with those, right? But now there's an opportunity to use an app like Tavori that gets out of your way so you can indulge in the story and ideation process spatially.
Exactly. And we do have Inga with us today. If you don't mind, Inga, just saying hello to our lovely audience. And again, a pleasure to see, such success for, women in animation and being able to showcase the tools that you do. So do you mind giving us a little bit of a deep dive into, where we are in this disruptive technology and how important these tools are to our industry in immersive and linear production within broadcasting?
Thank you very much, Muki. And yes, so we are really happy today to observe this technology shift and this transformation. And I think you already demoed the major slide where you emphasize the difference when we are building 3D animation and we create 3D content on a flat 2D screen using keyboard and mouse versus building 3D, being in 3D, being fully immersed. And this was possible starting like 5 years ago with spatial computing crazing and new virtual reality headsets. I think many people tried VR games and headsets for playing stuff. But our mission was to change the way how we build content, how we create. And so VR is for productivity today. And the whole idea, so the Tavori was born with the mission to democratize creation of 3D animation. You already said it requires years of training to build CG animation and learning all the menus, just because it's pretty artificial for our brains to work with 3D on a flat 2D screen. And democratization comes with making it very accessible to non-technical people, to very creative people, but without any 3D skills. And also its democratization is all about focus on the right things. And the focus here is on creativity and art rather than on technical stuff and learning softwares, just like freedom your creativity and start building. And we are still at the early stage, and big name studios as well as small indie studios are still at the early stage of adopting these immersive technologies because they have to change their workflows and change their pipelines, production pipelines. But thanks to IBC and this program and evangelists like Rafi who are coming from big studios, this transformation is happening today, and this makes us feel very proud and happy.
Excellent.
Because at the end, users will be happier.
And we know that they will be, because if they don't, I'm going after each and every one of you. So we've got a little VT clip to demonstrate some of the success that's come out of this and how some of the champions put some of these tools to use. So let's roll VT.
The challenge of this Accelerator project is to explore the use of VR and real-time workflows to create CG animation.
I worked on XR projects for a number of years, delivering XR as an entertainment medium. And during that time, I realized that there was a suite of tools emerging on the marketplace that let you create in VR as well.
Existing methods for 3D modeling use a graphics tablet and a monitor, both of which are 2D. This creates a workflow bottleneck of constantly having to spin around the model to see how it looks from different angles. Moving the mouse cursor in 3 dimensions just isn't possible.
When you have an audience that is consuming content at a ferocious rate, your ability to turn around high quality is extremely important. So when you get a process and a tool set that allows that to happen, it's an amazing opportunity.
I think what we're actually seeing are creators embracing the real-time engines and the workflows and being able to see instantaneously the result of the animation in XR, in VR.
It replaces the $10 million render farm from 10 years ago. Is truly liberating because every artist can have that render farm now in their own computer.
In the course of this POC, we've only scratched the surface of what's possible. And that's incredibly exciting from the perspective of both artist and business.
I remember in the early days when we gave this to an artist and she put on the headset, it was just massive smile and just blown away. You know, literally her words were, "I've been waiting for this my whole life."
And what a lucky girl she was. Excellent. So, I mean, just kind of summing things up, Rafi, what is the big message to the industry that this your Accelerator Challenge is putting out there to the world?
Yeah, I think as animated content creators, if we want to originate strong IP and build franchises with real reach and longevity, our approach to animation production has to be more nimble than it's been so far, right? It's not known for being nimble. And we need that because we want to unlock a level of world building that really makes the most of those unique formats and those platforms. If you speak to Tom Box from Blue Zoo, he'll tell you that one of their goals with this POC was to create in a way that gave them the ability to create social media content in a much more live and a real-time fashion without sacrificing quality. And VR tools are enabling them to do that now, right? And you want to do that cohesively while upholding story and character, because that at the end of the day is at the core of all engagement, particularly animation.
100%. Story and character at the heart of what we are as broadcasters and creators and producers. And just want to thank you, Rafi. Thank you so much, Inga. I'm so proud to work with you guys. And what's great about this accelerator is that we've decided to carry on as a consortium and continue exploring and deep diving and working together. So watch this space 2021. Thank you so much, guys. I'm going to pass back over to you, Mark Smith, to continue on with our
Thank you, Muki. Yeah, great stuff. And another mammoth project there in terms of the number of champions, participants, and a wonderful outcome in terms of the POC that was delivered there. Moving on to another transformational, in fact, the final kind of accelerator we're going to talk about today, but it's about transformation and the transition to IP for broadcasters and looking at how in the future TV might be distributed as objects. And it's my pleasure to welcome from ITV, the lead in that particular project, Tim Davis, who's the principal architect at ITV. Hi, Tim. How are you doing?
Hello, Mark. Good, thanks.
Good. And your project was co-championed by BBC, again, along with Unity, the games engine that was involved in this, with TV2 and with Wiley. Tell us a little bit about this challenge. I think we've got a slide that just sums up what you set out to achieve, but tell us from your perspective, what did you want to achieve with this?
I think there's a couple of different sort of trends and things that are happening in the industry. The first of all, as you kind of highlighted, is that move to IP, that the way that people are consuming content and the way that we're delivering content to our viewers is evolving and is changing, but the way that we're giving them that content hasn't really kept up pace with that. So we still, if we're talking about sort of live content and live channels that we're delivering over IP, we're still delivering those as kind of flat linear services that are kind of targeted to the entire population rather than to a particular individual. And that sort of trend of consumption over IP and consumption over more flexible means is definitely one that's accelerating and continuing. On the other hand, we've got the subscription VOD services and these catch-up platforms, including things like ITV Hub as well, that give you absolute control and absolute personalization over the services that really allow you to select what program you want to watch next, how you want to consume it, when you want to consume it, and where you want to consume it. And what we were trying to do with this was really to kind of take those two different trends and join them together. So to take all the best of broadcast and linear television, those sort of shared moments, those social moments where people come together to watch the same content at the same time, whether that's sort of sporting events or news or entertainment or any of the sort of the sort of continuing dramas, even the big things that really bring audiences together, to still take that best of broadcast and kind of maintain that, but also given the flexibility to actually take those channels and those services and really personalize them to the individual. By taking those components and taking those different elements of a channel and what we consider to be a TV service, breaking them down into their sort of constituent parts, and actually allowing the edge device or the network or the cloud to really kind of take those objects and bind them together. So moving away from this flat linear sort of mass targeted channel to this idea that we can combine those elements in a different way and much closer to the user.
Yeah, I think we have a slide that shows the challenge, but I think it shows some of the vendors as well that were involved in it. And if we could show that slide, the TV as object slide. And so you broke the project down into several work streams, didn't you? Tell us a little bit, Tim, about why you did that and why you chose these particular vendors to be involved. What particular expertise did they bring to the project, and how did you manage this? And then we'll look at what you achieved.
Yeah, there were two things that we were really trying to do with this. So it was trying to kind of bring together a group of people who had very different experiences. So we have kind of traditional broadcasters and you know, the BBC and ITV. We've got people who've got a real wealth of experience across the entirety of the broadcast industry. So people like Singular and Grass Valley and Dazzle, who are coming in with some really great experience of how we do things. We're bringing in companies who've got a different perspective. So Alluvio, and actually the way that they're looking at assembling channels and creating content and kind of originating content, very, very different way of looking at that sort of traditional problem, but also then bringing in people from outside of the industry. So actually having Unity involved was a really great way of bringing in different perspective. So they're not broadcasters, they're not involved in the way that we do it today, but what they bring with them is a very fresh sort of way of thinking. And actually we'll play the VT in a minute from Benedict. So one of the kind of resources we had working with is a guy called Benedict, who's a computer science student from University College London, and having people who don't have those sort of preconceived ways of doing things in the TV industry was a really, really important way for us to kind of bring those skills in and kind of bring all those different expertise, perspectives, and in some cases almost like naivety as well. So why is it that we're doing things the way that we do? And actually if you can ask those questions, if you cannot answer them properly, if you can't answer them convincingly, then you know that you're doing things out of habit rather than because it's the most optimal, the most efficient way of doing it. And so that group of sort of both champions and participants was a really good mix that represented, you know, sort of brilliant expertise, different ways of thinking, innovation, different sizes as well. So large companies and small companies have different sort of different momentum about them. So small and nimble and agile, but big enough as well that they've got that sort of weight and that gravity behind them.
Yeah, brilliant. Why don't we just take a quick look at the VT, which is the one you were just talking about from Benedict Chan from University College London, your intern, and just look at what you achieved and you demonstrated as part of the showcase. If we could run the VT from...
So here is a live stream of a British Touring Car Championship race with 4 different audio tracks, 1 background, 2 different commentaries, and a team radio.
The tyres were rooted and they had the electric problems, so it's not gone BMW's way at all.
And we know how tough a championship this is. You can't afford one bad race, never mind a bad day. And the race order, Rob Austin leads the pack. You have to go back a long, long way for an outright Alfa Romeo win. 1994 was when Giampaolo Simoni won at Donington Park.
Through the UI, you can adjust the different volumes of the different audio tracks with the sliders. This means that if you have hearing difficulties, you can turn down the background so you can hear the commentary more clearly, or you can turn the background up, or even turn the commentary off.
But for Anton Bourbon, he really got a great...
That James Coller's car is going any further. Jake Hill's car is out of the garage.
Through the UI, you can also toggle between the different commentaries, which will also show a pop-up using singular overlays of the commentator that you're actually listening to.
It's his way now up towards the timing line. Round 3 of the championship is in, but the flag is out. Tom Ingram wins. Victorious, a 7th career win. Second.
And lastly, you can toggle to the team radio.
I don't know what kind of story that tells, guys, really. Not the performance at the start, and suddenly we're one of the fastest people out there, I think.
So brilliant little demo, that just showing how customizable kind of audio can be around a sport like that, really putting control in the hands of the viewers. So I think that was a fantastic demonstration, Tim. Benedict's part of your ITV intern.
So something that we're quite passionate about, and something that the industry needs to kind of to really get its weight behind, is bringing in new skills and bringing in new perspectives as well. And so we're running a graduate program at the minute, which we're just kind of recruiting at the minute. So if anyone is interested, itvjobs.com is the link to go to, and you can find out more there about how we're kind of building skills within the industry.
Yeah, brilliant, Tim. Thank you. And I'm going to bring Ian Wagden from BBC back in now. You were involved in this, BBC were involved in this project. There's been a lot of work going on over the last few years around object-based media. So tell us a bit about that. Ian.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I mean, it's something that we've been exploring for a while. I think we had a stand 2 years ago at the IBC Future Zone, where we were kind of really exploring use cases for object-based media. And we see a lot of potential, particularly around things like accessibility, as you see in the audio demonstration there. That for us is a big key win. There's a whole bunch of things about new ways of storytelling, which is really exciting, both in kind of the temporal space, variable length type solutions which rely on objects, as well as kind of branching narratives. So we've done lots of kind of proof of concepts and kind of created tools to enable people to author those, and some of those we've made freely available on our website. But actually what was really exciting about this was the ability that, and it's like anything, when you kind of plant some seeds and then the industry picks it up and grows with it, and people are really starting to engage with it now and talk about it and deliver it in a way that is at scale. And that's what was really exciting about working with the ITV team on this. As with all these things, time and focus is really difficult, and we'd love to have got involved in a lot more of the accelerators, but the ones that we were involved in were really passionate about. And for us, object-based broadcasting and the work that everyone is doing is going to really change the way we engage with our audiences, and I think that is one of the reasons we wanted to be involved in it.
So Tim, you've, like Ian there, you've had a great team, you've had a fantastic experience with the accelerators. Would you come back and do more, you guys, while we've got you?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. We talked throughout the whole sort of POC thing. It's about learning by doing. So it's not just about sitting around and discussing what's possible. It's about trying it. It's about seeing what works. In a lot of cases, seeing what doesn't work, and really understanding where the limits and where the boundaries are. And you learn so much just by trying these things out. And one of the great things about the Accelerator is it's an open forum to do that. Everyone can contribute. Everyone can innovate, and everyone treats it like a very egalitarian system. So everyone's opinion counts, but actually you can kind of contribute so much, and you can learn so much by working with others.
Oh, great stuff. Okay, thank you very much. We definitely have enjoyed working with you all. It's been quite an extraordinary experience, and I think we've learned a lot on the road with all of these projects. Certainly, guys, thank you for all of your fantastic leadership and time and effort being involved in this. So, Muki, why don't we do a quick wrap up here? I think we're pretty much on time, aren't we? If not a little bit over. So I particularly wanted to say thank you to the RTS and IET for having us to explain all about these accelerators. I can't encourage you all enough to go look at the showcase. If you want a deeper dive into some of these, all of these different challenges, if there's something that caught your ear tonight, do go and have a look at the full sessions. Thanks to all of our 62 champions and participants that were involved in the program this year. Thanks to a fantastic team at IBC that really did support us. As soon as we knew there wasn't going to be a show in Amsterdam, they really put the full effort into making sure the Accelerators was a valuable program for the industry. And I think that's proven its worth, and certainly some fantastic output, even while the industry faced some enormous challenges this year. I think it's been quite something. So thank you. do go watch the sessions and try and do come and get involved next year. So I think that's the key thing, isn't it? We'll be announcing more details about the Accelerator Programme for 2021 soon. And I think the best way to get hold of us perhaps is you can email, which comes to all of us at IBC on the programme, accelerators@ibc.org. Again, if you have any more questions about today's sessions, you can send it to that email address and we'll get back to you. But that's where you can find out more, as well as there's podcasts and there's articles about these projects on IBC 365. And I'd really encourage you to go and have a look at that. Thank you very much. Thank you so much to everybody that joined us this evening. It's been a blast, and I hope there was some good stuff there for you.
It's been hard to like do the wrap up in 1 hour to like each session diverse on, but like Mark said, please go log on to IBC 365 and the showcase and look for the accelerators. Get a deep dive into that, and you can watch all these sessions back, and we really encourage you. I want to give a quick plug back to the music project. I forgot to mention that one of the key outputs has been produced is a white paper fairness manifesto on music and in the broadcasting industry. So look for that on the music project page. But just to echo Mark, thank you so much, IET. Thank you, the Royal Television Society, and thank you so much to all the champions and all the participants in the IBC Accelerator program. We've had a crazy 6-7 months, but every single second's been worth it. So just to get another quick plug at our friends at the IET and RTS, the next session is coming up in a couple weeks. I've got the 28th of October, How to Survive Streaming at 4 o'clock in the UK. And then there's a 10th of November. Yes, How to Survive Streaming, 28th of October, 4 p.m. Book at rts.org.uk. And then after that is the 10th of November. We can go back to that information, that last slide, thank you. The Thames Tideway Tunnel. So anyway, just go to the rts.org.uk. We're going to sign off. So again, hit us on Twitter. Thank you again, RTS, and get us on Twitter and on accelerators at ibc.org. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care.
Thank you, Mark.